wish him all the best of luck. And to the big global story for today is that mobile network company 3 have announced they have temporarily suspended their shared sponsorship with Chelsea Football Club amid the sanctions imposed on Roman Abramovic. Now, the Blues have had the company as their sponsor on all kits since the beginning of the 2020-21 season. However, as a result of owner Abramovich being sanctioned by the UK government earlier today, the company have decided to suspend their deal with the world and European champions. Chelsea owner Roman was sanctioned this morning, and it was said that his assets are frozen. There's a prohibition on transactions with UK individuals and businesses. There's a travel ban, and then there's transport sanctions. Sounds like a lot, isn't it? So what does this mean for Chelsea? Let's look at it on our screens. All his assets, including Chelsea, are frozen. Chelsea have been given a special dispensation, however, to pay salaries, but they cannot sell players match tickets or merchandise. And also, Chelsea have been given capped amounts to spend for home and away matches. We'll explain that shortly. Now, the sale of the club can go ahead, it can be done, but only on condition that Roman does not benefit. And also, Roman sanctioned, if you have forgotten, because of the alleged influence he has in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What does this all mean? I'm joined by two people who certainly understand the issues. Martinziegler is the chief sports writer of The Times in London, and also Thomas Rennie is a Premier League match commentator as well. Martin and Tom, thank you very much for your time.
Nice to be here, Gary.
Yeah, nice to be there. So, first of all, Martin, I mean, when the news broke, you were one of those first people on Twitter who put it out there and started giving the rundown. How did you get to hear of this really seismic news, Martin?
So there was, I think the government were preparing to make the announcement. It had been sort of top secret all yesterday. And then about 10 minutes before it was officially announced, I got a tip-off that it was coming soon. And so I was sort of managed to be well prepared. So actually, when the confirmation came, I had all the facts at my fingertips.
I can imagine. I mean, in about 10 minutes, you had more than 2,000 retweets and people quoting it and all that. Were you surprised at the reaction to the story, Martin?
Well, not really, because I think it's a massive news story. You know, Roman Abramovic, the guy who's spent £1.5 billion and taken Chelsea to the top of the world, is suddenly, you know, the club has been taken out of his hands. The assets frozen. What's going to happen with the sale? You know, big financial problems now for Chelsea for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tom, let me bring you into the discussion. I mean, I've worked with you on TalkSport, on Premier League commentary and all that. You know what the pulse is like around the world, and certainly in Africa. How do you think this bit of news will resonate around the world?
Well, I think what we've learned here is why people like Roman Abramovich buy clubs like Chelsea, right? They buy them because today he's been sanctioned by the UK government because of his role in supporting Vladimir Putin over 25 years. And, you know, oligarchs are allowed to be as rich as they are because Putin allows it. And today, when people like Martin report and people like me talk about on radio shows that he's been sanctioned, we get Chelsea fans saying, but he's been a wonderful owner. What a wonderful guy. Look what he's done for Chelsea. Look at these trophies that we've won. We had last week when we knew this was coming down the pipe. We had people like John Terry saying something like legend or something like that on one of his named social media tweets.
He said the best.
And it's a bit like, you know, this is why they do things like this. He doesn't do it for the love of Chelsea. He does it because he has been able to legitimize Russian dirty money in London, known colloquially as London grab, because of the way that money is washed through the city. So I think fans have been groomed to accept this is the status quo. And I'm sad to report that at the Chelsea game this evening against Norwich City, I'm told that the Chelsea fans are still singing the name of the owner. And watch the news, guys. There's a reason that he's been sanctioned. And frankly, it should have happened last week.
I asked you to join this discussion because I know how passionate you are about, dirty money, quote unquote, washing through global football. Fans are going to be fans. I mean, they don't care about these things. But from a community point of view, how does news like this invalidate all the years that this money has raised trophies for clubs like Chelsea?
It's a fascinating question that I couldn't really answer in the minute I've got here, but I would say that the success that Chelsea have had, all the players that won those trophies, they haven't got to do as Brian Clough once said and throw them trophies in the bin. You've not deserved them. Those players deserve them. They really happened. I hope fans enjoyed those great memories that they had, but you've got to be able to separate these things. And a lot of Chelsea fans that I know, I've got friends that are Chelsea fans going back, the 30 years I've known them. And they were never happy with the Roman Abramovic era. They didn't want this to happen. And they've always understood there was a certain pinch of salt they've got to take with these trophies because of the way he earned his money. Now, the UK government have issued these sanctions. I think you have to pivot and change your viewpoint if you are a football fan. Look, football is amazing and sport is amazing. And I love the fact that my team, West Ham, we can concede a goal and the player can definitely be onside. And I'll swear blind he was offside, because that's what football fandom is. And that's part of the thing that I enjoy about it. But this is not that. And I would suggest if you're still supporting Roman Abramovich and not Chelsea Football Club, who are, I think, 117 years old today, then I would suggest that you've got your football scarf on a touch too tight.
Interesting. Let me come to you, Martin. I mean, again, because there are a lot of Chelsea fans who just don't understand what's the scale and why it's happening. Could you break it down for them as to the severity of this? Because, Martin, and remind us, this sanction expires at the end of May, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct. May the 31st. So what it means is that Chelsea cannot sell tickets for any matches for the rest of the season. They cannot generate income, any extra income. They can't sign any new sponsorship deals. They cannot. They can receive money from the Premier League that's already owed to them from TV deals. That has to go into a special account. It can only be used to pay for the players' wages. So what you got here is a situation where the club has to pay out a lot of money every month, and it probably doesn't have enough coming in to cover that. They're going to lose probably £3 million from ticket sales.
Wow.
We've had, as you say, the shirt sponsor pulling out, suspending their deal. Does that mean they're not going to be paying their money? It's a really big concern, and that's why the club today, they went back to the British government. They said, we are in serious danger of not being able to be a liquid asset by the end of the season if we're not allowed to sell tickets and if we're going to be facing this freeze.
Is the club in danger, Martin, of insolvency or being taken into administration?
No, I don't think it's at that point yet, because there's in these sorts of situations you're usually given a lot more time than that.
Okay.
I think if things don't get sorted out and the club doesn't get sold and this drags on for months, then I think there is a risk of that. Yeah.
Tom, people have said that Roman has been caught between a rock and a hard place. Because last week he said that he insisted that he was not going to give the proceeds of whatever sale or to keep any of it himself. He was going to give it to the victims of the Ukrainian invasion by Russia. Now it seems from today's sanctions that the UK government is basically saying, we don't want you to benefit anyway, and we want you to give the club away for free. Isn't it?
Oh, well, look, the things that I could say here in this conversation that would get you taken off air. So I won't be saying the libelous things that I could possibly say. But I will say that, a week ago, we knew sanctions were coming. Before that, we knew sanctions were necessary. Even before the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia and Vladimir Putin, we knew that there were sanctions from around the world, including from the UK, since the invasion of Crimea back in 2014. So these are all known factors. And yet we're in a situation now where Roman Abramovich was sort of allowed to continue. allowed to continue with what he was doing, allowed to continue with being the owner of Chelsea, allowed to continue to invest in his wide and vast property and investment portfolio. So that was allowed to happen. We're beyond that situation now. We've moved on from that. And I think that though it's late and though we knew this was coming down the pipe, I'm pleased that we have seen this today. And I think that it's great that Chelsea Football Club have been allowed to continue. Usually when assets are frozen, they are frozen. You don't come to work. The gate is locked. You saw it with the ticket office today at Stamford Bridge Stadium, that it was closed at 11 a.m. or some such time when the sanctions were handed down. But Chelsea have got quite lucky here. They've been able to continue to exist, and that will lead to financial issues, as Martin alluded to a few moments ago. We're a long way from it being catastrophic for Chelsea, but I think we're not far away from Chairman Boris Johnson and Director of Football Oliver Dowden, and they run the club for a brief period of time until such time as an investor can be found. I don't think Chelsea fans need to worry about their long-term future. Short-term, they absolutely do and should.
Martin, you do a lot of financial reporting as part of your job as well. The Premier League is a behemoth. I mean, so much money washing through the league. It's big, it's all-consuming. Should other investors in the league now be looking over their shoulder before bringing money into the Premier League clubs?
I mean, if we're talking about investing in clubs, I mean, I think what Chelsea has shown is that if you want to take a club of that size and keep it at the top of European and world football, you have to pay for it every year. And effectively, that's what Roman Abramovic has done. You know, he's covered the cash losses. I mean, his total input now is £1.5 billion over the 2 decades he's been there. So what that says is that if you want to buy Chelsea or another club of that size, then either you have to put that sort of money in, or you have to take a different model and perhaps accept that you're not going to be able to keep them challenging for the Club World Cup or the Champions League. If you want to make money out of it, if you want it to be a sort of a proper investment, one that's going to sort of generate income or increase in value, then I think it's going to be very, very difficult. So I think whoever buys the club, and then other club owners in the future, they're going to have to cut their cloth accordingly, because unless you're somebody like him or the Qatari state or United Arab Emirates or Abu Dhabi, then it's very difficult to compete.
Tom, so Chelsea fans now, at the end of the day, you know, it's the fans who suffer more than anyone else. So would you tell Chelsea fans, for example, that they have been treated unfairly? Has the UK government hit the club that they love too hard when the owner alone could have been, as it were, sequestrated?
Again, it's a big answer that I could give to this. I think that, did Chelsea Football Club exist for 90 years before this owner? They did, and they were a magnificent club and a credit to the nation. You know, one of our most glorious and famed clubs before this owner came in. They were recent European champions, Cup Winners' Cup, if memory serves, before this man even came into the club in the late 1990s, and were always a top half of the table club, certainly in my lifetime. So, look, they've been a great club for a long, long time, and they'll be a great club again. So I wouldn't worry about that for Chelsea fans. I would suggest that you need to be able to separate these two things. What this man has done for 20 years is essentially sports wash the money of Vladimir Putin in London via the Premier League. And there's a reason why he turns up for finals and holds the trophies, because it legitimizes him, it legitimizes Russian money, Russian business. And there's a reason why Vladimir Putin has allowed him to do that, because there's a sign at Stamford Bridge where the fans sit with a Russian flag saying the Roman Empire. You know, it has legitimized what the oligarchs have done to Russia, which is steal their natural wealth after the fall of the Soviet Union. Again, a lot to break down in a very short answer here, but I think Chelsea fans need to separate the two things, and I don't think that you can separate them in terms of the sanctions, because he owns the club. He's the 100% owner of the club. We allowed that to happen in English football, for good or for ill. You can. And frankly, they're lucky they can continue to exist as a business. There is a war going on. It's a hideous, horrible, evil thing that Vladimir Putin has done. And frankly, the UK government have done Chelsea a favour by allowing them to exist, because these other businesses, quite rightly, have been frozen in their entirety today.
So just before you go, Martin, final word. what should we expect in this saga? Because, I mean, you guys are the reporters there. You have your fingers on the pulse. Is it going to get worse?
I think that the government are going to sort of bend over backwards to try and facilitate some sort of sale. I think it's going to, Abramovich, his grand ideas about this is going to, all the proceeds are going to have £2 billion going into a charitable foundation, the Roman Abramovic Foundation. That's not going to happen. He is going to be completely cut off from any proceeds. We wait to see what would actually happen from that. Will it get into a frozen account? Would he perhaps give it to the Disasters Relief Fund or something? He'll have to sort of clear that with the British government in order to get the sale done. And then the club can sort of try and rebuild from that.
Ah, great. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Martin. Always a pleasure having you.
Yes, Gary.
Yeah. Tom Rennie is an EPL commentator. You can get him on TalkSport Live in Ghana. I know they are my competitors, but they're on City FM. And you can get Martinziegler on The Times, and he's also on Twitter, always smashing the headline stories. Cheers, guys. So that's it for the Chelsea bit of news. When we come back, the Jollof Derby. What is the latest? Ghana have a key player injured. We'll be doing that to finish the sport. Stay with us.